Hello everyone, this is Mr. Honey for Sports Nutrition. Today we are going to be talking about how carbs metabolize within the body. So if you go into Canvas, you will see this video as well as a set of note questions. Just answer them as you go through and watch the video. So as we learned from last class, we learned that there are three different types of carbohydrates. You have your simple sugars, your complex carbs, as well as fiber. Simple sugars obviously are simple, easy to break down carbs, while complex are a little bit more complicated, and then fiber is the type of carbohydrate that cannot be digested by the body. So, with digestion, what exactly is it? Well, it's the process of making and breaking down food to the smallest amount where we can use it for its intended purpose within our body. That is energy. Essentially, we eat so that way we can have energy. And this process goes from a starting point, which is in the mouth, where we chew it and begin to break it down and have amylase within our saliva that actually causes the food to break down, which is an enzyme in the saliva that causes food to break down, which is the finished product, which is going to be obviously where we begin to see it turn to glucose, and then that glucose is going to provide us energy at the cellular level. So, with the carb digestion process, essentially the body, as we mentioned, breaks down carbohydrates into glucose, and then we need that glucose for energy. So the thing about it is we break down everything into glucose. The glucose is now in our bloodstream, i.e. blood sugar, glucose being sugar. So how do we get it to our cells? Well, the hormone insulin comes in and actually moves glucose to the cells, which our cells then use for energy. Simple enough, right? Well, with simple carbohydrates, this process happens really fast, and then a lot of times when this happens, you don't really feel as satiated after eating. So a lot of times this is why people can eat a lot of candy or a lot of apples or a lot of grapes all in one sitting, because it doesn't really fill them up. Versus complex carbs, your pastas, your breads, that sort of stuff. This happens slower over time, and you tend to feel satiated when you eat these types of carbohydrates. Now, why does this all matter? Well, first off, we want to talk about the idea of insulin. It is the key in all of this, and it really is. As I mentioned earlier, insulin basically helps deliver glucose to our cells for energy. So in other words, insulin is that key that unlocks the cells that allows us to give it the energy it needs. But it also serves another function. And what it does is it stores that extra glucose as glycogen, which are our fuel reserves in our liver as well as muscles and our fat cells. So in other words, when you feel like you can still keep going even though you've missed a meal, chances are that you probably have excess glycogen stored somewhere that your body can then pull out and then use for excess energy. All right, that is how we continue to work and do and stuff even when we have burned off all of the cells that we use. And typically with this kind of stuff, you want to think of like a car, okay? If you have a car and you have gas in the tank, this is like the glucose that's sitting in our cells, okay? If you got gas in the tank, it's being used right away to get it energized, to get it from point A to point B, just as we are using food or using glucose at the cellular level to help us get from point A to point B. But then let's say, for instance, you start running low on fuel and you break down on the side of the road. Well, you have that fuel reserve, so you may have an extra, gas tank in the back that you can pull out and put some gas in the car to help get you to the nearest gas station. This is kind of how it works with glycogen stores. It is basically stored elsewhere, so that way if you use up all the energy for your cells, that your cells can pull from those fuel stores and continue to work and do what they need to do. So this is one of the reasons why, and I mentioned this and showed you guys this with the little activity y'all did last time, that we need to pay attention to glycemic index, because glycemic index is the rating at which food will spike your blood sugar. So in other words, we are going to be putting a lot of blood sugar within we're going to be putting a lot of glucose in our blood, but we want to make sure that certain foods that we eat are going to spike it in a certain way. We want to make sure that we're aware of what and how our body will react to it. So you have food that has a high glycemic index, which means it will have a rapid, fast spike in blood sugar. And then you have your low glycemic index, which is a low rise in blood sugar. Now, when it comes to this, blood sugar is regulated by, you guessed it, insulin. Because remember, it is responsible for getting the glucose to where it needs to be. So in other words, insulin makes the choice. Does it go to your cells? Okay, if all your cells got everything, does it go to your stores? So in other words, are we storing it as glycogen? Are we storing it as adipose tissue, i.e. body fat? Okay, and once again, when you have high levels of sugar, when there's sugar in the blood like that, that means you're going to have insulin there to do its job. So this can be very dangerous in a way and very insightful because there is a thing out there called insulin resistance. So if you think about this, this is where you have lots of sugar, and because we have lots of sugar, we need to pull in lots of insulin in order to take care of this. Well, if we keep on piling sugar and stuff, over time, it's just going to get too much. It's going to be too much, and then cells will stop responding to insulin trying to give them energy and then develop insulin resistance. So blood sugar levels can continue to rise, which is dangerous because if you think about it, you want to have a healthy level of sugar within your blood so your cells can get that energy, but that sugar is not supposed to stay within your blood. It's supposed to go within your cells. So if it's in your blood and it stays there and it keeps rising and rising and rising, it's not good to have it in there. So what happens is insulin comes in, is trying to do its best to tell the cells, hey, I need you to take this sugar so that way, I can put it elsewhere and you guys can take it away from me. And basically what happens is the cells may not respond. So what does insulin do? Has nowhere else to put it, so they'll store it as glycogen. And in many cases, this is where it happens to be stored as fat. So in many cases, you have cases where adipose tissue, extra body fat, fatty liver, that sort of stuff happens. So as I continue within this, I want to just share with you my own little testimony related to this. Many of you know that I am pre-genetically disposed diabetic because, my dad has it, my Meemaw had it. So everybody in my family, we going down the line. A lot of us are, pretty much are going to get it at some point. And with that being said, that is one of the reasons why I eat the way I eat. You guys see that I don't really drink sugary drinks, things like that, because I have this issue. Now, I bring this up because in many cases, you guys are young. You're young. Many of you are active. Many of you can sit there and eat an entire pizza and not gain a pound. All right, not gain a pound, not feel terrible. You can feel great, and you just live life. You can eat whatever you want. And I'll say that is, that's a blessing because I've been there. I have been there. And many of you who know me know that I'm not, I'm not shy about sharing my own stories in life. And with that, I want to share with you these photos. So these are two photos of me when I was younger, around 2008, 2009. Obviously me on the left, and I am the one in the center here. So as you see, this is a very, very thin Mr. Honey, a lot different looking, and granted, yes, a lot younger, but obviously very, very slender. And the reason I bring this up is because when I was of this age, I ate like total crud. Okay, I woke up every morning, I either had some form of sugar cereal or I had Pop-Tarts. So there's my sugar kick for the morning. And then from there, I would go to school. Really wouldn't eat anything in between classes, but once lunch came, I ate the same thing every day. A fried chicken sandwich with French fries, chocolate milk, and 2 chocolate chip cookies every single day. And if they didn't have chicken sandwiches, I ate pizza every single day. And I was actually able to maintain this level of thinness because I lived a very active lifestyle. If I wasn't doing things with ROTC, running, or doing things with band, I pretty much was able, pretty much that's what I did. I was always busy. So I held a very active lifestyle, and I was able to eat a lot of the crud that I put into my body. In many cases, there were foods that I would put into my body that had very high glycemic indexes, could break down and put a lot of sugar into my body. But fortunately for me, my body was able to go and burn through it. Where that started getting a lot different was around my second, maybe into my third year of college. I actually began putting weight on a lot more because I was not being as active, and I was still eating the same crud that I always ate. At this point, used to, if I had a healthy meal, it was because, it was a home cooked meal that my stepmom made. When I went off to college, if I had a healthy meal, it was because I had to make that cognizant choice, that conscious choice to make and eat a healthy meal. And so it's one of those things that as you got older, as you guys see, it's a lot different looking than it was now. Less active, obviously not eating the best, and, trying to get back into that groove of things can be really, really complicated. But it's one of those things that over time, if you are smart about your activity levels, you get regular physical activity, and you eat correctly. Okay, you're eating and watching how much you are putting your body through in terms of what you eat. You are really setting yourself up for success in the long run. Because the thing about it is while I am predisposed, diabetic, I have had scares in my lifetime where there were instances that I literally sat there and was like, holy cow. I'm eating a lot of stuff that is not healthy for me. It's not only causing me to gain weight, but it's causing me issues related to my sleep. It's causing me issues related to my focus and a lot of other things. And the thing about it is taking care of your body is your best insurance at this point. If you think about that, taking care of your body is the best insurance. So I want you guys to think about that, is that, as you get older, you want to practice being mindful of what you eat now so it becomes habit as you get older. So for today, I want you guys to take an opportunity to research and delve into the glycemic index aspect of food. All right. Now you'll hear a lot about this thing called glycemic load. I'm just focusing on glycemic index right now. So as you guys know, glycemic index is, how fast it can spike your blood sugar. And so it's very important that you need to understand what this is. So if you go into Canvas, you will see the glycemic index chart assignment. Yay, another chart. It's not Mr. Honey's class unless we got a chart. And as you see, if you open it up, you'll see that there's little references to what is high, medium, and low glycemic index. You're going to write down all the foods that you typically eat. Now, if you want to do like a day where you ate a lot of food, write that down. Or if you have a diet that is very consistent, you can write that down. So you write all those down in the left side of the column. And then from there, you go into Google and just Google what the glycemic index of these foods are. So if you woke up in one morning and you had two wild berry Pop-Tarts, then Google wild berry Pop-Tart glycemic index. Trust me, people do research on this and you will probably be able to find it. Once you find it, write the number down. Then once you write the number down, using that little key at the top, write whether it is low, medium, or high glycemic index. All right, now keep in mind that the lower the glycemic index, the lower and more steady it will cause a rise in blood sugar versus the higher glycemic index will cause a faster spike. So what you're going to do is you're going to start seeing a little bit of the types of foods that are associated with high and low levels of glycemic index. And then maybe you can make connections to why you feel a certain way after eating certain foods. Like, for example, I remember during, when I was in class, and I remember this specifically, I had I have band first block. And what I would always do is right before band, I would eat a Pop-Tart every morning. I'd eat Pop-Tarts, and, if I'm feeling really wild, I'll, wash it down with some chocolate milk. So Pop-Tarts and chocolate milk starting out my morning, go into band, play, and then by the time, and I remember this, in science, I slept through almost every science class because I was just sleepy every single day. And, a lot of times I may attribute that to not getting enough sleep, but at the end of the day, what was I consuming? A lot of sugar. Once again, that sugar gave me that fast spike of energy for band, and then once that spike was over, went back down, fell asleep in science. Just something to think about how your diet can have an effect on you from this standpoint. So then once you get that chart filled out, sorry I went on that tangent, but then once you get that chart filled out, then you're just going to go answer the 3 reflection questions, and then you're good. So this is the end of what we've got going on for today. So get that done, get it turned in, turn your notes in, and I will see you guys later.